Thank you very much.
I feel like you're one of those people that greeting follows you wherever you go. You like walk into Starbucks and everyone bursts into applause.
That does not happen.
Because you don't go to Starbucks.
Because what?
Because you don't go to Starbucks.
I've been to Starbucks. I've been to Starbucks. No, I'm. You don't want to. I don't want to be known any more than I am. It's a lucky level of.
Yeah.
You have to sort of play the Nerds 2 card to get the table.
That's a deep cut. We're going to talk about that
good.
classic.
I dug deep.
Actually, this is an audience of your fellow SAG-AFTRA actors.
Thank you, actors.
So I always like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card? What was the job that brought that?
It was a movie called Dead as a Doorman, directed by Henny Youngman's son.
Really?
Which I did not realize until he brought his kid to the set, and the kid was wearing a onesie that said, "Don't take my grandson," or "Take my grandson, please." And that's when I that's when I realized it. When I was I went to college, and then I went to schmacting school to Julliard, and it was funny because Kelly McGillis had gotten Witness, and it was just like, oh my God. And then I got asked to do this little movie. And everyone at Julliard thought, wow, here goes Brad.
Yeah.
And that did not happen. I have a funny story about the very first take I ever did on film was in this movie. And we were shooting in Atlanta, and it was a big monologue. It was a phone call. I was on a payphone. And I knew from doing a lot of theater that the best way to calm yourself is to be prepared, and I had really worked on memorizing this thing, but you don't know what's going to happen because I've never been on a film set, and it's all weird and uncomfortable, and I didn't know that you had to stand on the tape.
No one tells you that.
Nobody, the DP told me.
When you get there, yeah.
I think I said, "Where should I stand?" And he's like, "On the tape." And this take started, and it's the first time you hear quiet, everybody quiet, and I hear the camera start to hum. They used to hum. And I don't know what's going to happen. Nerves are tricky. Am I going to freeze up? And this monologue starts like tumbling out of me, and I have this like rush of, oh my God, like maybe I can do this, this crazy, obnoxious thing that I want to do. And I'm feeling comfortable and loose, and the words are just coming out, and I get cocky, and I kind of toss the receiver, and I have this rush of like confidence, and the camera guy goes, "We got to cut. He's got nose hair."
Oh!
And you hear, "Brad's got nose hair. Brad's got nose hair." And that's basically what a career is like. Like this overwhelming sense of confidence, and then just like a capacity for public humiliation.
Yeah. As soon as you're flying high.
Oh, yeah. Right, and then they like trim it in front of everybody. So you're like... and then you have to do the next take after the nose hair trim. Yeah. And I was just, I was, I think, 24 at the time, so I didn't realize you had to worry about nose hair. So it was a rough start.
I always like to ask people like about their first time in front of a camera, because I just think it's weird when you actually are on a set and you have a giant camera in your face.
Yes, it's all weird. It's very, very, it's very weird, and you wonder as a young actor. I mean, for me, when people say, "How do you act for a camera?" the basic answer is don't. Like, the good thing about doing theater is it makes you more audacious. The great thing about doing anything in front of a camera is you really can't lie. And still to this day, I find it all very weird. And I'm usually somebody who's trying to fritter away my nerves by attempting to be pyrotechnically unserious about acting.
I just suddenly got really paranoid about my nose hair. I'm sorry.
No.
I literally did. I was
No.
you
look good.
And I have black hair. So.
Yeah. We're not down here. Don't worry.
Actually, I'd love to go back to the beginning because I believe you were raised primarily in Pennsylvania.
I was born in Wisconsin. When I was 3, I moved to outside of Philadelphia, and then when I was and then
cheesesteaks.
Then I went back to Wisconsin for high school. The first acting experience was an anti-smoking skit in 6th grade, and this is how old I am. I actually smoked a cigarette in the anti-smoking skit.
Yes.
For the kids. And my dog was in that, which was comforting. I had a dog and a cigarette.
Yeah.
And then I remember my older brother Dave. I remember he was in a play, and it was a middle school Shakespeare production, which is not a great. It's tough.
Like Titus Jr.
I just remember Phoebe. But it almost made me ill. The nerves for him before he went on. So I don't know why, but I did. But the first production I did, and probably the best work I've ever done, was I played Teddy in Arsenic and Old Lace.
Everybody does arsenic. Who here has been in Arsenic and Old Lace? Yeah. Usually there's more. Did you draw lines on your face to make you look older?
Yeah, and you put those like dots. Remember that ridiculous thing about the red dots, which makes no sense. And I remember feeling what I often feel, which is before you go on, like a sense of you could sentence people to this and crime would go down, But then it was. It sounds corny, but it was kind of an epiphany that I never recovered from, which was that this was the only kind of integrated activity I had ever experienced. When I was playing a sport, I was turning my brain off and my heart off. When I was reading, I was turning my body off. And there was this euphoric sense that I still sort of feel about acting, which is this is absolutely everything all at once.
I can't believe I've never heard that description for it before, because that is perfect.
That's a great title for a film.
I think we're done. Yeah. But how do you get from, Wisconsin to either Broadway or Los Angeles? Did you?
I like in Wisconsin, you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
You're not in a city where anybody's cousin was in a movie or anything. It honestly never occurred to me to say out loud that I wanted to be an actor. But from 7th grade on, I was looking back. I was in as many plays as I could be in. But it was not a pre-professional thing, which was I feel very lucky about. I went to college, and I was a theater and English major at a place at Wesleyan, which is a place that I loved. It had such a dysfunctional theater department that everything was student generated. It's where Lin Miranda went to school, and it's yeah. And you just had to generate it yourself, and it was constant acting. But I still was like, it just sounded vain. and ridiculous to say you wanted to be an actor. And I sort of on a whim applied to Julliard and to Yale, and I got waitlisted at both places, and then I got in at Julliard, and I do remember very clearly opening this letter, and it was kind of horrifying. I was like, Jesus, I guess you're going to like try to be an actor. And then I went to Julliard, which was a crazy, crazy place. I was really glad that I had all of this time at Wesleyan where acting was not, I wasn't getting ready, you know, to win or lose. It was recess. And having that, it's something I think I try to cultivate is I know I've been very lucky to have experiences with wonderful actors and storytellers, and I am completely, totally convinced that the best work is done not in an atmosphere of school or with the anvil of artistry on your shoulder, but no matter what the material, the best atmosphere to make that happen is recess.
Yeah. If you're going to Juilliard, though, you have to come out as an actor. You have to tell people, like, this is what I want to do. I'm serious about it. How did that go over?
You know, I was lucky because I'm like the fifth kid, and my parents, I have a sister who's 20 years older than me, 19 and a half years older. My parents basically, here's the joke, 3 kids, like a 10, 11-year break, my brother, the mistake, and I'm like the mistake's friend. So at that point, their parenting theory was love them and keep them out of traffic, you know, because they're going to be whatever they are. I felt very lucky about that because I think now it's inevitable when you parent to go, okay, we're cool, obviously, but what are you?
Yep.
You know, and I could tell my dad was an incredible musician who came out of the Depression, and that was not an option for him. Mm-hmm. And I could tell he loved it. He was certainly. I told him when I got into Juilliard, I said, just think of it as sort of acting school with as medical school with guaranteed unemployment.
Very reassuring.
Very reassuring. But they were supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you kind of resent that support because you're supposed to be like a tortured artist? And
no. No, I'm hanging on by my fingertips. I'll take.
You mentioned, you know, people have had very different experiences at Juilliard. Some people say, I've been told I'm supposed to say it Julliard.
Julliard.
Yes.
Yeah. Can't you tell by my slightly false way of talking? Did I have a good experience there? I loved my class. I think what's weird about Julliard is if you want to be a dancer, you want to play the trumpet, there is a mountain of technique you have to master before we can even talk about whether or not you have talent. On the other hand, as one of my children reminded me once, I've seen dogs be good in movies. So it's, you know, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
I actually think at Julliard, it's sort of teacher-centric, like, how can we systematize this? And I actually think that if I was designing an acting program, it would be more like a writing program at, you know, the graduate program at the University of Iowa, which is basically just write as much as you can. We'll have some smart people around, you know, to tell you, you know, what we think. But the whole, acting. Talking about acting is like dancing about architecture. You can do it all day, but it's just really kind of pretentious. And if you tell me, if you tell me I'm overacting and you tell Jim Carrey he's overacting, it's going to mean a different. It's very hard to even agree on the terms. You need to just do it a lot. And what happens in acting teaching, this did not happen at Julliard, but very much like Christian fundamentalism, people look at acting, which is gloriously mysterious and kind of unanswerable. And the lesser approach to it is to go, this is a scary infinite world, it must be this. And the truth is, I don't know any of the the amazing actors who I've worked with who are dogmatic in their approach. I think like the greatest privilege of my career is immersion. Is just a relentless obligation to do it, which Julliard gave me. Even though they thought they were doing this sequential thing, we were just trying to make things work. I'm sure we'll get to West Wing. That was when I was a kid. I wished that there was an acting season. Cut to me in like March of West Wing, like, oh, well, you got a season. But that sort of relentless obligation without getting caught up in your head about it is sort of the best way for me to do it. And the best teachers are really undogmatic, best directors, undogmatic. There's something weird about Julliard because that's also weird in... We all have to navigate directors, and it's a difficult thing because as actors we have to sort of adopt. I struggle with this all the time. A psychology of submission.
Yeah.
Like you have to choose me and you have to like me, and somebody has to write a play, and somebody has to decide to produce it, and the director has to choose me. And it's a dangerous thing because the most secure directors, and even big namey ones like Spielberg or Jordan Peele, these experiences that I've had that are extraordinary, they are secure enough to know that they don't want the actor to think that the director knows better how to play the role than the actor does. It reminds me of parenting. Like you can overparent out of fear that your kid is gonna, screw up, or you can give your kid what they deserve, which is the opportunity to surprise you.
Yeah. And
the most extraordinary experiences I've had on stage or in television is where that hierarchy is obliterated.
Mm-hmm. Someone once told me that they don't like directors who feel the need to be the smartest person in the room.
No.
Yeah. Like people think that like you want all sorts of answers from your director, but sometimes you just want that curiosity. Yeah,
usually, I've directed, so I know how. I've said this before, but I don't think I'm considered a difficult person to work with. I don't think I have that reputation. If anything, I'm, a kind of cloying, Labrador puppy, like in between takes. But if I'm truly honest, anytime any director has ever said anything to me, I go through 3 silent beats. Fuck you. I suck. Okay, what? And I think it's an inevitable part of acting because you have to turn off your editor to get out, to get out there. And there's everybody gets. I think you do. Directors are incredibly important, and you want an eye out there. Matt Perry, God bless Matt Perry, but we used to laugh because directors would often will go, okay, are we rolling? Yeah, we're rolling. Quiet, guys, roll. We're rolling. Okay, and Brad, don't push for the joke. Just say it. Action. Like some devastating note.
Yeah.
Like,
Great direction.
Yeah.
Just
Are we rolling? Brad, you realize you do this thing with your don't worry. Action. Oh. So when I was directing Matt, and I go, are we rolling? Okay, good. Okay, and you peaked 10 years ago. Action. He appreciated that.
You could have just said nose hair.
But you constantly have to sort of flick that stuff away. Mm-hmm. I do have a story but it's there's probably other shit you want to talk about. But
yeah, go for it. No, go for it. This is
well.
Went low.
Best direction I ever got was from a cinematographer, Janusz Kaminski. As some people probably heard me tell this. Call of the Wild. My beloved manager, professional wife, Adina Chalk, who has represented me for 30 years or almost. Jesus.
Since you were 12.
Since I was 12, called me and said, you have an offer, it's a movie. It's Call of the Wild with Harrison Ford. Live action, which I'm a professional actor for a long time. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And you start on Monday, meaning somebody dropped out. And I read this script, and I'm playing the guy who owns the dog at the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. I'm the patriarch of this family. And then the dog is stolen, and the movie happens with Harrison Ford. And then there's this weird coda at the end where this Native American older guy from the Klondike comes back, and I'm in old age makeup, and he tells me the story of this dog, my beloved dog. And my beloved dog didn't die. It became this hero, mythical hero of the Klondike. And I'm reading the script, and as the pennies drop, I stand and I start this march. It says in the script, he walks across the room to the window where he saw his dog last, and in the fading sunlight, his face fills the screen. He weeps. The end, right? So we know what. First, I go to the director and I go, I don't think you're going to need this. Not because of that, but like you're just telling the audience what, and he's like, no, we gotta. I don't want to imitate him. No, I think we need it. And Janusz, I had worked with on the Spielberg movie, and Janusz is always in like a scarf, and he's very funny, and like Spielberg is intense, and Spielberg would get frustrated, and Janusz would be like, oh, the artist is mad at me, like. No, really funny guy.
No qualms about imitating Janusz.
No. Yeah. None at all. So we have to shoot this thing. The older you get, the easier it is to cry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. And I love dogs, and we know what we're going for. Your face fills the screen. You want to fill, and then you want the single release, right? Or that's what you want a pool, and then do that, right? So right before we do this thing, Janusz goes, your face is going to be 50 fucking feet tall, and and I'm like, it's not helpful. And they're Janusz is like setting up the shot, and I'm behind the flats, and I'm listening to very sad music and sort of shuffling through the deck of woe, and because you don't want to sprain your soul, and you want to be there. And they call me in, and I sit down on this antique chair, and it was like a parody of an acting class. I get this old antique cushion. I have a horrific memory of the saddest thing I ever saw, of something that my grandmother, at the very, very end of her life, and I get overwhelmed. And my eyes are closed, and then they're like, "Okay, are we ready?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And it's way too much, right? But I'm thinking, fight it, because I had an amazing experience with Michael Keaton once, where he couldn't get to something really emotional, and then it just exploded out of him, and the director was like, "Oh my god," and Michael was like, "No, do it again. I want to fight it." So in my head, I'm like, "Well, I'm too hot." I'm too hot, but I'm gonna fight it. And I'm looking at this poor guy who's wondering why I'm crying, because he hasn't even mentioned the dog yet. But I've been doing this long enough to know that the shot is not usable until I stand up and do the fucking death march,
right.
Over to the sandbag, the critical mark for Janusz, and I stand up, and it's tears are out of the gate. They're like dripping off, and he's talking, and I'm just walking, trudging with tears, and I'm like, well, maybe it'll work, and I hope I don't blow like a snot bubble. and my toes hit the mark. And the camera's on a track, and I'm like holding my breath, and the camera comes up, and it stops, and the director goes, "Cut! Wow!" And everybody applauds. And George, the who was the camera guy, looks up and goes, "Wow!" And everybody's applauding, and I'm thinking "Oh my God, wow!" I guess I really, kind of nailed that.
Yeah.
That I found that I was fighting it. I thought it was too much, but wow! And they're handing me, tissues like they're roses, and then I hear Janusz go, "I need another," and everybody goes, "Oh," and I'm like, "You need another?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's a problem with his mark," and I was like, "Really?" And he goes, yeah, there's a problem with your mark. And I'm like, "What?" And he turns me away from the crew, and we look down at the little sandbag, and he goes, "There is no problem with your mark. This is a kid's movie."
Oh, bless him.
Starring a fake dog. This is not the showers in Auschwitz. I know. I shot the showers in Auschwitz. Take it down a notch, my friend. And that was the best direction.
How lovely.
And I needed it.
Yes. I was really scared you're going to say he was seeing nose hair.
No, that gate was clear. But it's the same rhythm of mania and humiliation.
Mm-hmm. It was nice that he was looking out for you, though. Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I really, really appreciate it, and that's a pithy direction. That's not talking about it a lot. Talking I get exhausted sort of talking about it, but I have sympathy for it. The worst thing as an actor is you're doing something and it's cut. Like inarticulate disappointment.
Yeah.
Which is like usually followed by, let's just go again, you know. But I understand why, because, you know, I'm up here saying this is how you should direct because I'm Brad Whitford. And it's because the director is trying to be wants to say the right thing, and it's difficult. It's just tough because you're like out there on a limb, and then there's, you know, that kind of a thing. And that's why I want, like, if there are any directors out there, like, chuck some minnows. Like, you know, when you come from behind the monitor, like, you know, you know,
nice.
like,
well done.
like, you know, oh wow, that's great. Let's try this. But like throw some minnows.
Yes.
Yeah.
The encouragement is
always
welcome, even if it's insincere.
I do think that, and I think people think that actors are incredible. My experience with most actors is not that they are incredible egomaniacs at all. It's actually they have a kind of tremendous capacity for getting humiliated, like publicly, and I'm joking, but true, like rejection and no, and you know, you're not funny, you're not sexy, and no, fuck off.
That segues beautifully into auditions.
Yes.
We're going to discuss, because it seemed like it felt like you were booking a wide variety of roles, like pretty much out of the gate. I don't know if that's just perception or, It
feels like perception. Like auditioning is awful.
Must have been good at it though.
I got I know this. I got better at it when I had been through enough frustration with it that I really kind of made a decision of I understood that I was better off. You're not going to get most jobs. Mm-hmm. So there's something liberating about going, I'm not going to get it. But I'm going to have an acting experience. That really made a difference in my life. But auditioning is awful.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's that, you know, people have that like me energy because you're asking them to like you. And then casting directors always say, don't come in with a desperate energy. But
okay.
Yeah.
It's. I think there's very little. What's frustrating about it, you know, there's no escaping it.
Nope.
But in my, here's a metaphor that I always thought, like, auditioning. You know, let's say you're getting a rescue dog. Right, and you go to a pound, and it's heartbreaking. Right now, a normal reaction to being thrown, isolated into a pen, is to cower in the back and snarl. Which one do you take? Mm-hmm. The oblivious idiot in front, right? Like, and I do not think that. There are great casting directors. In my experience, there were two kinds. There were some who sort of lived in fear of and just sort of gave way to whatever the director was saying. And then there were people in my life, like Billy Hopkins, who wanted you to succeed, and did everything they could, you know, to make it happen. I look, it's a necessary evil. I ache for actors now coming up who have to self-tape, which is they found a way to make that worse. It's awful. I was directing a Handmaids, and oh God, there was a scene that I knew was going to be cut, and we were working with the writers to get this scene cut, but the time had come in production where you had to cast it. I know. And I was like, why are I, and they were like, we have to in case the decision is to keep this scene. And it was parents thinking that their stolen children had come back over the border. And the line was, they'd just gotten good news, and the line was, yes. That was the line. And I watched, 30 people, doing this. And what's horrible about it is, in some ways, I think it's democratized opportunity, but they just have more options. Mm-hmm. It seems to me that casting people are going, well, send it, and then they'll give you 15 pages of stuff. By the way, I'm incredibly lucky that, thank you, Adina, that I hated it, and I don't have to do it anymore. It's a very difficult thing to navigate. The only thing I think is try and having an acting experience, even if it's yes.
Do you remember the last time you had to audition for something?
What was the last time I had to audition? Oh, I Love Dick.
Really?
Yeah, unless you were just saying that.
Yes. That's... Aren't you?
Yeah.
Aren't you?
Honey, I know. Not the time.
Wait, I live. Aren't you 2 Emmys in at that point?
Yeah. Oh, well, here's a story. West Wing. I knew Aaron Sorkin because I had done A Few Good Men. And the reason I met Aaron Sorkin is because of Revenge of the Nerds 2: Nerds in Paradise. And Tim Busfield was in that, and Tim was a theater nut, and we went to the One Act Festival in Louisville, and then Tim was on 30-something, and Tim replaced Tom Hulce in A Few Good Men, and Tim said to Aaron, you should read this guy. Aaron gave me, I was the Kevin Bacon part, understudying the Tom Cruise part, and then amazingly, Aaron... when, no offense to me, that part would usually on Broadway go to a fading television actor. He fought for the understudy to get it. Really? It was incredible. I had my dressing room was. I moved into the dressing room. It was bigger than my apartment, and my dog Luke moved in. Anyway, Aaron tells me he's writing this thing with this part for me. And I read it, and I'm like, oh, Jesus, wow, incredible. And Aaron had wanted me to be in a sports night, but I couldn't because I was doing Secret Lives of Men, which it was really funny because I thought, well, Aaron's just going to write the pilot. He won't care about the rest of them. That was wrong. And... the other show was 13 on the Air, and my daughter Frances was about to be born, and Aaron totally understood. But luckily then that show failed, and I was available for the thing that Aaron had written for me. Now, Aaron did not have the power he has now. He was this kind of odd, he'd been successful in film, and it was like slumming in TV. So he didn't have power. I absolutely had the best audition of my life. I knew how to do his stuff. I knew it had to be completely inside me. I'm walking through the canyons, repetition. I would pretend I was acting badly and try to act well, which I suggest. as an auditioning technique, like, because sometimes frogs fall out of your mouth. So anyway, that's the kind of mindfuck that an audience won't understand and will bring the conversation to a halt. But I had this great audition, and I get home, and Aaron calls me and goes, "You made me look great. You made me look great." And, you hit it out of the park. And then the feedback is basically, we're not sure. And it took a long, long time. It took an agent who would not take no for an answer, even if it jeopardized her relationships with the people at Warner Brothers who were saying, he's not funny, he's not sexy, or whatever the fuck. And whenever a casting director says that, I just want to say, well, you're not sexy either. Not funny at all. But I've talked about this publicly. Tommy did not think I was right. Tommy Schlamme.
For a role that was written for you, more or less. Yes.
Yeah. Which makes you wonder if you should be doing this. Yeah. And I got it. Tommy and I would joke about it. Once I got it, we won acting prizes together. And very close. And after 4 years, they left. The show went another 3, and then Aaron had written Studio 60, and everybody was talking about this great script. And I had been doing West Wing for a long time and thought I should probably shake my Etch-a-Sketch, and because it was a punishing, very lucky but punishing schedule. It was crazy. And I purposely didn't read it because I knew it would be good. And then I got a call from Aaron. Aaron said, "Have you read it?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Will you read it? Because I think it's your voice." And I read it, and it's an Aaron Sorkin script. And I'm thinking, yeah, what, am I insane? Maybe this is what I do. And what a wonderful thing, to do, to live in this guy's writing. And so we go, yeah. God, yeah, yes, it's really good, and I'd love to. And then we get a call saying that I need to audition.
No, I was going to make a joke about that.
Yeah.
It happened?
Yeah, and I didn't. I think I called Tommy and said, I'll audition in a pilgrim outfit, but I'm not going to take it seriously. But it just goes to show, I've worked with that, they want to keep their options open.
Yeah.
And from Tommy's point of view, it's like, I want to see the chemistry in the thing. But there really is no there or years of work or little acting prizes you can get that will make you totally sort of immune from that. There are some actors. I did a panel with Emma Thompson and Tom Hanks, and they're like, "I love to audition."
No,
I'm like,
stop.
"Oh, yeah."
Yeah, nobody. When was the last time
Yeah.
Bosom buddies?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah. That is, I literally was going to make a joke about that. That is fascinating to me. And it was Tommy again?
Yeah, and I love Tommy, but Tommy, he knows. I've told him, and that's the sort of never-ending sort of, hierarchy that that sort of actors have to deal with, even if you're avoiding the audition process. Outside of your control, well, we don't know, we don't. You're always sort of at the mercy of that. It's a reason that I'm sure we'd get to Handmaids, but Lizzie Moss, who I met when she was 17, and I worry about kids in show business.
Yeah.
Because it's not healthy for me.
I worry about adults in show business.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. and but this was a kid who obviously wanted to be there. Then she becomes this amazing force in a star who can carry a show. And then I'm working with her, and the agency, no pun intended, that she took over this story. And Lizzie is wonderfully unprecious and not methody while doing incredible stuff. But it was an act of sort of extraordinary method preparation. We as actors, John Wells understood this a lot. John Wells let me write a couple of episodes because John really believes what I think is true and what I think actors should know, which is don't be defined by the category you happen to have come up in. We're all part of storytelling, and actors notoriously can become great writers, great directors, and those delineations within storytelling are ultimately, kind of artificial.
Yeah, well, and it also applies to typecasting, because I was thinking early in your career, you really excelled at,
dickheads.
Well, I was going to say douches, but yeah. I mean, Adventures in Babysitting, and Revenge of the Nerds 2.
But I could play an asshole and an asshole on vacation. Which a lot of people... look, I think typecasting is inevitable. It's actually kind of a compliment.
Yeah.
Because they're...
and it's casting. You're getting cast.
Well, it's like we know you can do that. Being able to do both theater and film, which I've been very lucky. Anytime, no matter what the condition of the play, when you do a reading of a play, there's this like crazy optimism of like, oh my God, like this might work. And whenever you do a reading of anything filmed, there is a sense of like, oh God, don't fuck this up. Like, people are going to go broke, like there's an atmosphere of fear that you kind of have to get over.
Well, also with typecasting, it can be fun to turn it on its head, like casting you in Get Out. There's a certain like sick humor.
Yeah,
in putting the guy from The West Wing and the level.
Yeah, Jordan's. I asked him why he cast me. He said, "I just want to see Josh Lyman take the top of someone's head off."
Really? He wrote that whole movie just for you. You had to audition for it. No, just kidding.
No, I did not.
Terrible.
But somebody turned it down, I think.
Really?
Yeah. I don't want to know.
Your manager's over there saying yes. I just want to touch on West Wing really quick, because I remember so vividly when you won your first of 3 Emmys for your work in the West Wing, and you said something about how this was the result of looking into the eyes of your ensemble cast.
Yes.
You named every one of them. And, you seem to really be drawn to spectacular ensembles. Was that something, did you know it was something special? Did you gel instantly or like, it feels
first of all, that show was not a given that it was going to work.
No,
I mean, the
people forget
conventional
that.
wisdom was this is too highfalutin, to work. I mean, one thing I would say is, basically we're a bunch of theater actors. And that preparation really and that kind of discipline, and with Aaron, who notoriously has an ear, you treat him like a playwright. And one of the things that people who've done a lot of theater, one of the scariest things about doing something filmed for me initially was, if I was doing a play in New York, I don't want anybody I care about to come for 3 weeks. Like, I want this totally in me. And the idea that in film, and in television, you basically kind of get one rehearsal, and then your grandchildren can see it. Is scary, and I think having a bunch of theater actors who knew how to internalize writing like his and sort of ride it without laying into the style of it, but get it to the place where it's really the mistake. I think Amy and I were just talking about this. That like with the writers, you don't want to lean into the style of it. I think of it. There are Mamet actors who sound like Mamet actors, and the ones that you love, their blood is flowing, while they're sort of taking care of that sort of technical obligation. And there's some great actors who that kind of verbal obligation just sucks the zen out of them, and they're like a llama, like trying to turn a lamp on. And it doesn't mean they're bad actors. It's just a different kind of thing. But that group, I mean, I have, memories of, Janie, who could memorize really quickly, but she was incapable of a false note.
Yeah.
Like even in a rehearsal, and I remember watching her do a scene with Richard, and I was just there, and it sounds pretentious, but I was like, oh, they're not acting. Like, just don't act.
Yeah. Are you working?
That's the lesson, Kate.
And you're working with Allison Janney again.
Yes, I am.
You're married in that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah.
Finally, my fanfic came true.
Yeah, she said it's like kissing her brother.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you know off the top of your head how many times you've been nominated for SAG Ensemble work? Because I do. I count it. You want to guess? Because there's Get Out, there's Handmaid's Tale, there's West Wing.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Take a stab at it?
I
No, okay, 9.
Wow.
You have 9 SAG Ensemble nominations. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, truly it is, a great thing. When West Wing happened, it's like there was, everybody's, neurotic and ambitious, and a show hits, and, immediately on that show, often I think there's like, oh, who's going to pop? And on that show, it's like, oh, it's everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yes, literally.
Yeah, it's absolutely everybody. And I've been incredibly blessed. When I was directing Handmaids, I was just like, geez, like all of these actors, Max and Yvonne, I have a lot of frustrations. But one thing that I have always felt since I absolutely love actors.
Yeah.
I've always felt like that was sort of my tribe. And being with a whole bunch of people, like that West Wing, it would feel like a volleyball team or something.
Yeah.
It felt good.
I remember how every year it was like, which West Wing supporting actor is going to win this year, because you all took turns, and it was really beautiful.
Yeah, like Aaron would literally write you an Emmy.
Really?
Oh, if you look at the tape, when I won, first thing, I stand up and I turn to John Spencer and I go, "You're next." And he was. And it was because Aaron, not cynically, but out of generosity, and because his writing sort of, Emmys are not, award shows are not arenas of justice.
Yeah.
They're conspiracies of circumstance. And and it's of course crazy that it's like a human dog show where someone comes out and goes, yeah, the poodle's better than the dachshund. Okay. Yeah. But he would create these episodes.
I remember each one of you won for, because so they're such vividly, they're not model episodes, but they kind of are character model episodes.
Yes. Yeah. He would do that.
It's not that I want to like talking about ensembles. I remember being really impressed after Studio 60. You did a couple shows I really liked. The Good Guys, first of all.
I love that.
Was, like, I remember they sent us mustaches as promotional items. Character had a mustache.
Yeah.
And then particularly Trophy Wife.
Was really fun.
I love this show. It was so ahead of its time.
I think all of those, I honestly think if they stuck around a little longer, they would have found their audience. It's always, the classic example, of course, is Seinfeld, which nobody watched for like 3 years while they were, finding their way. But all of those shows, I think, if they had stuck around,
nobody watched Succession for 2 years, and then everybody watched it in the pandemic.
Right. I also think it's weird that every show that you really love, it's always a weird thing about Hollywood, was not conventionally developed. I mean, if anybody had any idea that The Sopranos was going to be a tenth as successful as it was, you never would have met James Gandolfini.
Nope.
They would have stunt cast it, and they would have pasteurized it. And it's always amazing to me, and there's a lot of very, very smart, and I understand, nobody knows it's alchemy. Nobody knows, but things that are often development of television, it's like, oh, wow, Mad Men worked. Let's do the genre without the writing or the nuance, like
this year's Mad Men.
Yeah. And, if West Wing had been conventionally developed, it would not have worked. And it's the Achilles heel of algorithms and market research that it excludes what the audience hasn't seen. It's that cliche about don't go to the puck, go where the puck's going to be. Yeah. I've been in Canada a lot.
I think the reason I really remembered Trophy Wife is because I remember thinking at the time, like, you could do anything. I was like, and you took what I guess might have been a supporting role. You were kind of the straight man to letting these women shine, and I actually don't know. I believe it was considered supporting at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, Bradley Whitford doesn't need this. Like, again, it's about the ensemble.
Yeah. It's, I was talking with, maybe I shouldn't say it, but,
if you need a moment to think about it, we'll give it to you.
No, I like Allison and I were talking about, do you want to be number one?
Yeah. Some disadvantages to it.
Yeah, it's it's a tough gig. Lately, my career philosophy is wait for the show to be a hit,
right?
And then step onto the boat
and get an Emmy.
Yes.
Transparent season 2, Handmaid's Tale season 2, very small.
Oh no, let's talk about Transparent season 2 Emmy. You ready? I got nominated as a guest the first year, right? The second year, I was supposed to be in an episode which ended up, because I think the episode didn't quite work, became very sort of background, sort of cut into a bunch of different episodes. I was playing somebody named Magnus Hirschfeld, who's a real human being and important, hero who, when you see Nazis burning books, it's at his sex clinic that they went to first, because in case you haven't noticed, fascists make political footballs out of people who make them sexually anxious, because they're fucking cowards. And this part ended up, I think I said one line. I was wearing a fat suit, and I kind of looked like Colonel Sanders, and there was no scene that I was in. I did kind of a pass in something, and it was fine because the plans changed and things got cut differently. But I think I only have one line, and I doubt you recognize me.
No, I didn't know you were in the first season.
I was in the first season. In the second season, I'm a mascot in a fat suit who says one line, and I got nominated. And I called, and I was like, that's a mistake. So it's not an arena of justice. I think it was because in the streaming world, people probably started watching the show and did it for that. But that's...
so you really want it for season 1?
I did. Yeah. As a guest, but yeah, and I know.
That was. Speaking of, you met your wife on Transparent.
I did. I was.
You got an Emmy and a wife out of it.
I did. I was wearing a dress.
That's a meet cute.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
That does bring us to The Handmaid's Tale, though. This startling documentary you're a part of, which you also joined in its second season and won an Emmy for your performance as Commander Joseph Lawrence. Who really, I'm just curious if they knew, if they had any way of knowing, because this was like 2017, what that arc was going to be.
We knew that. I knew it was kind of, an audition. I know it was originally 3 episodes, and then they made it. Then it was going to be 2. I have been lucky to be on shows where you could sort of smell that if it works, which may not be all on your shoulders. It may be, where the show has to go, but we did not know. We knew that there was a possibility that this guy, I think it was mentioned early on that I was one of the architects of Gilead. And Amy had been obsessed with the show. I watched it and was blown away. It was an amazing. This is why talking about acting sounds pretentious. If you're lucky enough to do it long enough, one of the things I've learned is that out of fear and anxiety, early in my younger days, you try to sort of narrow down what you're playing. What is this person? And the older you get, you realize you can open up the aperture and let more contradictory things come into it. I think a cliche, a lot of actors, you got to make a choice, is about something we think we all agree on as actors. It's pounded into us. Everybody's different about their own process, but having the luxury of doing it a lot, what I sort of realized was I want to just immerse myself in it and not make a choice. And I had an experience working with a guy named Mark Rylance in a Broadway play, like
The Boeing?
Yeah, which was really, really fun. But Mark's magic sauce is that I think really it's why he is experienced a stage actor as he is, why he's so good on film, is like 8 times a week, like looking into his eyes, this whole thing you realize is just trying to be innocent to the moment. Which obviously you have to prepare so that you can be innocent to it. You can't just walk in there and look at the amoebas in your eyes, but I've done that.
Can I tell you something funny about Mark Rylance?
Yeah.
He told me he steals a lot from his dog. Like
dead
serious.
Yeah. Oh, I
from it, and it's that purity and that innocence.
Yeah. Otis was in a lot of characters because Hubert Humphrey was very boxer. But yeah, that's the sort of trick is really trying to be innocent to the moment, in public. I mean, you can smell it. There's very slick performers, but you don't get that kind of vulnerability. Mark's a trip.
Yeah. No, I mean the goat, truly.
Yeah, and with also several things going on at once, which is why the choice things would flat me. Like in Get Out, it's written in. There's a couple of things, going on in any moment. Right. And that got me excited about that. It's amazing how much I bitch about being an actor as well. But that it got me excited as an actor, and right after that, because I think I got Handmaids because of Get Out.
Really?
Yeah, it was on the heels of that. I think that's how we...
I mean, you had some other good work there. Yeah.
I stand behind none of my work. Yeah. But yeah. I think that I was very lucky because West Wing let me be an older version of myself and that was a scary thing because the smart-ass racist guy, if you get the tone wrong, that's the thing too. That's a great thing about television to me. One of the many great things is anytime I'm doing a movie, even if it's one seeing Get Out, I was like, Jesus Christ, that souffle rose, holy God. But when you're doing it, the entire time you're doing it, I have no idea if it works.
Really?
Truly. I knew it was a
anywhere.
brilliant script, but you just you don't know. In a television experience, the show arrives and not everybody loves it, but you have your audience, and that kind of fear that's always surrounding you while you're making a movie kind of evaporates, and you've got your audience. And the fundamentals kind of work, but it's always amazing to me how people will always say, you knew, right? And Get Out, and I knew I loved Jordan. I knew Jordan was an exceptionally brilliant human being. I could see while we were shooting this amazing stuff happening, but you don't know.
No.
Yeah.
What about something like, you played Stephen Sondheim in Tick, Tick, Boom.
Yeah.
And that's a different challenge in of itself, even
Yeah.
though it looks like fun.
It was fun.
Okay, it was fun. I don't know if I assume you approach everything with a certain amount of seriousness.
No.
But nope, not that one.
No, yes, I think yes, but
You're kind of doing Sondheim now, actually. Yeah, it is.
No, I think it's interesting because I really do. I'm not trying to be disarming, but I really. The Handmaid set, where I think some of the most intense, beautiful work I've ever been around happened, was one of the lightest, least precious atmospheres.
Really?
Yeah, I really seriously. The key is to take the work seriously and not take yourself seriously while doing the work, and that includes, for me, even in really dark emotional stuff. I don't want the anvil of, I think I said it before, of artistry on my shoulder. It doesn't help me. I feel like it's hard enough. It's elusive enough, and it always helps me. It's obviously my instinct in life is to sort of puncture the seriousness of it. But for me, if this doesn't sound too pretentious, I think it's a way for me to take it seriously without sort of tightening up.
At the same time, I'm thinking particularly of this last season of Handmaid's Tale, and I don't want to spoil anything, although I assume everyone's seen it. But
Yeah.
I would not have.
Oh, it all works out.
Yeah, especially for Commander
Yeah.
Lawrence. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
She's good.
Yeah. Air travel's safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got our country back.
When you're putting your body through these traumatic scenes, it doesn't always know the difference. You are traumatizing yourself to a certain degree. So yes, it's acting, but is it ever hard for you at the end of the day? Do you take it home? Do you have a way of letting go?
I had an interesting conversation with Lizzie about this, because I know I'm pretending. I remember, sorry, I've obviously totally let it go. I'll come back to this, but I remember Tommy saying, well, I'm just worried about Studio 60 because, it might be confusing to the audience that, to see you in an Aaron Sorkin thing, and you were in the White House, but now you're in a writer's room. And I was like, they know I'm acting. I think they know.
I really want there to be something that Tommy wants that you can withhold from him.
Yes.
Just long enough. This has become my vengeance now.
Long enough. But Lizzie, who is going through, I always describe it as like Sophie's Choice, the series. and I'm directing and producing. It's like insane. And she said something counterintuitively to me that I thought was interesting. Because I was asking a version of, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
And it's not like quiet, Lizzie's got to do an emotional scene, because that would be like every day.
Yes.
But she'll be like, you'll have to tell her to take the ear pod, out, and she'll hit things emotionally. And I was asking her how she did it, and she said, I wondered if I could give myself permission to go to those places without it hurting me. Mm-hmm. And it was a version of that giving herself the permission to do that, without. It's counterintuitive because, I make fun of method acting, although I know some great method actors. I also know that the people who are most precious about their own approaches are usually the most unaware of everybody else's. And there's something in even and again, it was surprising to me on Handmaids, but allowing ourselves to it was a confirmation that a supportive, joyous approach is the best way to the best kind of work, regardless of what that content is.
To that end, I do have an audience question.
Oh, God.
Forgive me if I butcher anyone's name.
Tommy?
No. Close. It's Johnny Walsh. There you are. Wants to know if there's a specific scene or project that sticks out as especially challenging.
My first thought is there were episodes of West Wing that were just overwhelming in terms of I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but Celestial Navigation, I think, is an episode. It's so funny. Aaron's like, "Do you remember Celestial Navigation?" I was like, I didn't know the titles of the fucking episode.
I remember one title, In Excelsis Deo.
Yes. Yeah. That's the
Richard's episode.
Richard's episode. That thing, we were right on the edge on that show. We got the script like on a Friday. We had this location on a Monday, and I basically had to narrate it. It was me talking to a group, and Aaron apologized and said, we have this location. Oh God, got another Tommy dig coming. I love Tommy.
Yes. So you keep saying.
No, I truly do, and that show would not have happened without Tommy. But I remember Tommy going, "Don't worry, we'll get you a teleprompter." And I was like, "I'm not a fucking weatherman." And I just remember pounding this thing, into my head. By the way, after, in the nursing home after the second stroke, a lot of Sorkin dialogue is going to
just come out.
Be coming out.
Yeah. Better that than Get Out.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Now. Oh my God. But what's interesting about that is I still feel. Here's something that pretentious that I haven't talked about yet. I think it's dangerous to be. I think one thing that has helped me is I don't feel confident. And last week I'm like, that's the neurotic thing about storytelling. Until it works, you don't know if it ever will. And so it's year 7 of West Wing. You're like, you have some confidence, but the other neurotic thing about acting is at its most sublime, it's just an inch away from total bullshit. And if the tone is wrong, it's what's worse than sitting in a room watching bad acting? It's like a crime. You're watching, and if the tone is wrong, it's just like a sour note. That's the bad news. The good news is, there's nothing worse than a totally confident actor.
Oof.
Because they don't have immediately coming to my mind, glorious James Gandolfini. Anybody who worked with him, I never did, but I know a lot of people who did. The reason he was so great, I would say the same thing about Jeffrey Tambor, carrying this sack of terrified humanity with them wherever they went. So the good news is you like I would say to young actors, you think you should be confident. You don't want. It's really difficult because the business is so neurotic. You aspire to a place where you have confidence, but the irony is that confidence will erase your humanity. There is no happiness. The reward is death. No, but I didn't mean to go that dark. But you want to. I think a little insecurity is good.
Well,
Most terrifying, yeah.
It's not always up to you, too, because there's editors, there's music, there's all these other things that contribute. And I'm sure you've maybe done performances that, like, didn't turn out the way you thought, either for the better or worse.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you really. I mean, it's scary. I get scared about directors who are totally confident. Like, this is, I know this is what we want. It's like, you don't. Like until you get in and see a cut, you really want that sort of. That's what gives me the most confidence is a director who has as little confidence as I do. And by the way, Steven Spielberg fights to keep himself from being confident. He's purposely, doesn't, isn't planning. You need that sort of energy, underneath it.
So the question was, what was your most challenging role or scene or moment? I don't know if...
Want
to come back to it?
The first play I ever did, I had to be like buck naked in a play, and that was scary.
What play was that?
The Curse of the Starving Class.
Oh, wow. No, that's out of the gate. That's a big one.
Yeah, it was scary.
Actually, I wanted to ask, there were some questions. Mercedes had a question about what do you enjoy, what's the most enjoyable for you, theater, film, or TV?
There was nothing like when Boeing, this door slamming, deeply shallow, profoundly unimportant sex farce. When that thing was like rolling, that was there's nothing like it. If you're an actor, you're a pawn in storytelling. If you're in a movie, you're telling the story once, out of sequence in snippets. People are stopping and sighing while you're acting. If you're doing a play, you're telling the whole story. And 8 times a week, and there's nothing like it. Something like West Wing felt like a combination, because of the speed of it, and that I'm really grateful for that intense, and I don't think that happens anymore. 20, and it was too much, physically too much, much more so for the crew, obviously, but too much for Aaron. Like that obligation was too much, because basically, like The Sopranos was as good as any mob movie. We were as good as any political movie. So we're making the equivalent of 11, feature films in 9 months. And while I'm glad they're not doing that stuff anymore, you do lose what you were discovering along the way, as opposed to now things are, sort of completely mapped out. And just the relentlessness that training was, it was like a baseball league for theater geeks.
When was the last time you were on stage? Is it something that you want to continue to do?
Right now.
Really?
No, I'm on stage. No.
That's the joke.
Yeah, that's the joke. She'll be explaining the jokes. Yeah, there's a play I'm interested in doing that we're talking about.
Because it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, no, it's like you feel spent, and that's what I loved about West Wing was it was like, oh, we're like there are cameras there, but oh, I'm spent. And it's good to be spent. It was really fun. Did you? Tick Tick Boom was really fun.
Yeah.
But I think an interesting acting thing to me, what I got to do in that, I think if I was playing Sondheim, I think if I had been a larger character, you would have seen through what I was doing.
I kind of know what you mean. Yeah.
Well, that hurts.
No, I just you have to parse that
No,
out.
it's one thing if I'm being like self-deprecating.
Yes. I actually thought there needed to be less. Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's. I mean, now.
Yeah. No, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I'm kind of like doing a thing. It was just an interesting acting problem to me because while I was doing it and.
But you're so accurate in your
I
depiction
had an
of him.
idea that he was just an unmade bed with a crooked smile.
Yeah.
And it was a way to sort of simplify it. But I realized when I saw it, I first of all, Lynn directed the shit out of it.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean, I didn't know he would be that.
One of the best.
Great with a
debuts
camera.
I've ever
I mean,
yeah.
Unbelievable, cinematic storytelling, which is just because he needs another skill.
Right, exactly.
But it was funny because I was watching it and I was like, that works. But if there was more of it, it was just interesting to me. I don't know what it means, but I'm glad you have the same reservations about my acting that I do.
No, because Sondheim, like his mannerisms are like if you put him as like a supporting character.
Oh,
if
he didn't exist,
yes,
if
exactly.
I did what you find in the research, like he would do, it would be like an orangutan with like a disconnected shoulder. Like he'd do these whole, like it would be too much. Like and like an accent, I thought with him, like with accents, you try and get it down and then you pull it back 60% because otherwise it'll be too much.
Yeah. I have to ask because you have been a part of so many iconic things and roles and mediums. When people see you like out and about, like at the Starbucks where you go, for your coffee, what is it that comes up most? Is it still West Wing? Is it Handmaid's Tale now? Is it Adventures in Beauty?
I've been surprised that Handmaid's Tale, I know we don't know how many people watch.
Yeah, that's right. They keep that secret. Yeah.
We do know what the CEOs are making.
Yeah.
Right? I've been thrilled. Handmaids is a very interesting thing. That's a claustrophobic concept. I thought one of the most underrated, under-acknowledged achievements that I've been around is the way Bruce Miller stepped off the dock of that beloved, brilliant book onto the rowboat of, that held for 6 seasons. Yep. And then I really feel, like they kind of nailed the landing on this. And it seems like the audience is excited about it. A lot of people... I mean, I've had sort of boiled frog, kind of recognition. And we've noticed recently that it's a lot of Handmaids.
Yeah.
But like it's usually there's a lot of like West Wing. There's obviously the very specific Billy Madison.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
You were blonde in that.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
blonde, yeah.
Yeah. I dug deep.
Would you go back?
Thank you, SAG-AFTRA.
They made a sequel
Yeah.
to Happy Gilmore. Would you go back for a Billy Madison sequel?
Hell, fuck yeah. Oh yeah.
You're in one of my favorite scenes of all time. It's the that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. We're all dumber for having listened to you.
Yeah. Business ethics.
Yes.
Yes.
I would love to know what happened to that character.
Me too. He's
Probably president.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. He could be president. Absolutely could. Kind of creamsicle hair.
Well, again, I want to thank you so much for being here, for being so
This was
great
really
an
fun.
Audience. I want to thank you all for being a great audience. And again, can't wait. Looking
Thank
forward to whatever you do
you.
next.
It was really fun. Thank you.
Thank you.